Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about the third commandment in egoless programming. So let's get into it. And the third commandment is no matter how much karate you know, someone else always knows more. I think this is a good saying, but I also think that this is something that it's very obvious to you in the beginning of your career, and it's also very obvious to you in the end of your career. But there is this very nice, and I think that this is why the saying goes the way it goes, because there's this sweet spot moment in between where you become the philosopher, as I call it. You usually have the three stages. You have the beginner level, and then you have the philosopher stage, and then you have the master's programmer or pragmatic master stage. And usually when you get to that point where you feel confident in your software development skills, you will have ideas and you will have enough experience to start get into a very dangerous headspace, and that is that you believe that you are correct about everything. Well, not everything necessarily, but enough things. You will start to default to the fact that you are right about something, and you might get into this position where you don't hear people out. You may let them speak, but you don't really consider what they're saying. Now, I have been here as well, and sometimes I still forget myself, and I feel, because it's a natural thing to do, right? You really do believe that you know what you're talking about, and you don't consider what anybody else is saying. The worst part is if it happens often, if you're right a lot of the time. And that's something where you really need to keep yourself in check here, because if you go from if you go from knowing that you're usually right to assuming that you are right, then you're getting to a really dangerous headspace. And all that really has to happen, which I think is a very humbling and nice experience, is that if you want to fix that with yourself, all you have to do is to take one step outside your comfort zone and look at an area of programming that is not your area of expertise. My favorite one is, and this will never happen. Well, it's very unlikely that it will happen. My favorite would have been to say, all right, to a die-hard back-end developer, yeah, ideally the ones who really think that front-end is a joke, ask such an individual to go and make an SBA, or like a front-end project or something like that. They won't be able to do it. The most defensive ones of them will just say that, oh, well, no, it's bullshit anyway. Why should I? It's just a toy anyway. And I always like to probe them a little bit extra and say, but you can't do it, can you? Well, I don't have to because it's bullshit, but you can't. It's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't. You see, that's the important part. You can't, because someone else knows something that you don't. And this is for the people who identify very hard with their role as a programmer and the code that they write. This is something that really ticks them off. It's a hard thing to accept. And that comes back to this egoless programming idea that if you can't understand that there's always somebody who's better than you, then you're walking around in this little mental bubble where you are the best of the best. And the worst part about it is that if you believe that for long enough, you might get into a situation where you defend that viewpoint, where you actually where you will actually reject things and get hostile or for different reasons with people, because they are challenging your mental illusion that you are perfect or that you know more than everybody else. And that's just not productive behavior. If you have a look at how many of these highly profiled software developers who have accomplished so much, you can probably on a logical level understand that they have skills that you may not have, but at the same time they themselves have people around them that have skills that they don't have. No human can know all the things. Take Linus Torvalds as an example. I had a junior coworker who was saying the other day about how, you know, he would be so cool to work with that guy, and I went, well, I would really not want to work with him, at least not in this company. Because if I'm going to ask Linus Torvalds to make my React application or help me tweak the CSS, I'm pretty sure he will be shit at it. If we're going to make a kernel or we're going to work with hardware or anything like that, I'm pretty sure he's the guy to talk to, at least to get some insights on. But when it comes to this stuff, I'm pretty sure that he is completely lost. And the same thing would go for Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or whoever. Like, it doesn't matter which programmer, take whichever entrepreneur, programmer, whoever has achieved a success in your life, and know that regardless of how good they are, there's always someone who's better at something. And the same thing goes for you. Keep that with you, because I promise you, you will get to a point where your confidence level rises as a software developer. And then you get to that's where you get to that fork in the road. Are you going to start getting defensive with people and let your ego take over, or are you going to stay humble and actually dedicate yourself to lifelong learning? So what I want you to take away from this is that it is absolutely true that there's always someone who is better than you at something. Even if you are the world's foremost, I don't know, machine learning expert, there's always someone who knows something that you don't. And if you have that with you, that's probably one of the best medicines against your ego taking over. Because if you can be humble enough to understand that you will need other people for some stuff that you want to do, and that other people have a perspective that might be useful to at the very least hear out, you will at the very least invite the possibility of someone correcting you. And even if you don't agree with them, at the very least you gave them a chance. And that is going to do more good for your ego and for your personal growth than if you just assume that you're right all the time. Have a great day.